Alex Hormozi spends 7% of his time on content. That means the other 93% goes into running a portfolio business doing over $200 million a year, and still, he's able to post more than you. That's just 4 hours a week, or 30 minutes a day. And so it's clear that the problem isn't effort, it's just that he has a better system. Now, I've spent weeks looking into it, and I'm going to tell you exactly what he does and how you can steal it for yourself. This is Paul Graham's essay titled The Maker's Schedule and the Manager's Schedule. It was published in July of 2009. Now, if you don't know, Paul Graham is a venture capitalist. He's the person behind Y Combinator. But what matters is that Alex Hormozi's content strategy is built entirely around this essay. He says there are two types of schedule, which I'll call the manager's schedule and the maker's schedule. The manager's schedule is for bosses, with each day cut into 1 hour intervals. Most powerful people are on the manager's schedule. It's the schedule of command. But there's another way of using time that's common among people who make things. They generally prefer to use time in units of half a day at least. Now, he says this is the case because for some people, if you're writing or doing content strategy, for example, an hour block is barely enough time to get started. You need to be put in the right mind state before you can do anything meaningful. When you are operating on the maker's schedule, meetings are an entire disaster. A single meeting can blow a whole afternoon by breaking it into two pieces, each too small to do anything hard in. One chopped into 30-minute and hour-long blocks, surrounded by meetings, and they still wonder why they procrastinate. Hormozi's day-to-day is a manager's schedule. His calendar is a dense grid of hour-long blocks of meetings. These are maybe executive syncs or investment one-to-ones. Regardless, he operates as a manager. But as Paul Graham said about a manager's schedule, writing only works inside maker time. This also applies to content. Now, Alex Hormozi's content fits into this manager schedule. He does not have to clear an entire day to create content. In fact, he is so uninvolved with his production system that he can just turn up and record for 30 minutes. He doesn't need to come up with ideas for what to say. That's already done for him. Now, in my research, I did find an exception to this. When he goes to write a book, he does go into a maker's schedule. He clears his entire calendar for weeks and puts literally every meeting aside. This is a deep maker schedule. But for the 297 pieces of content he gets out every single week, he does this in just 4 hours per week. The only reason he's able to do all of this is because he has the right system. But what does it look like? Well, to start off with, he doesn't read scripts. Now, this may sound like a really small detail, but I promise it is very important. The only part of his videos that are scripted, the first 20 seconds, just the introduction. The rest of his script is based on answering an outline or questions. I think it's better just to show you.
Poor people stay poor because they want a fast way to get rich. And instead, the richest people that I know pick one of these 4 paths, play it for a decade, and then end up with more money than everyone else that is just chasing shortcuts.
Look, this bit is very clearly scripted. He's speaking fast. You can tell he's recorded this take quite a few times.
A fun reminder for you, no president, no economy is going to make you rich. You have to do that for yourself. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 4 paths to mega money. And I'll show you how to pick the right path at the right time for you. Let's get into them.
Now, it's important during that introduction, his team gave him all of the retention points he needs to hit, but also the parts of the title that he needs to reaffirm, and the parts of the format to set the right expectations to the viewer.
You've got your money in your business. You've got other people's money in other people's business.
Now, you can tell as we're now into the video, I think this clip's taken from a live stream. And so he doesn't only have like the outline questions he's trying to answer, but then people throwing questions his way too. But yeah, it's very clearly unscripted. And, he's sort of improvising based on like this rough thing he's meant to say.
Businesses and then permutations of them.
But it's done in a way that allows him to like improvise and give unique stories or examples without it seeming out of place. You see the like actual outline. It's the only thing that allows him in a 30-minute recording schedule to do his best work.
And so your money, your business, right, is a bootstrapped business. If Warren Buffett, investing. Michael Dell, bootstrapped. The Waltons, as in
I mean, he's actually just pulled a list open on his phone. I mean, this shows that it's unscripted. He just had an idea and recorded it. So you can clearly feel what is scripted and what is like loosely recorded. But the truth is, if you try to write a script on a manager day, you will always end up procrastinating. And that's because of a mismatch in your neurochemistry where your dopamine is higher than writing a script. And you don't have this time to narrow it. You don't have the time to get into the right mind state to do that. And so you would have to just delegate it. Now, the issue with delegating it is they're not Alex Hormozi. They don't know the business knowledge he has and wants to give. And so the hybrid approach is to have someone prepare the questions that they think you have an interesting answer to, but let you actually give the answers raw and live. And so this is what lets him, in that 30-minute recording slot, produce actually valuable, novel, brand new content that actually uses his proprietary insights. And without this, the entire production machine would just output a lot of rubbish, just a lot of noise at scale. But these outlines obviously don't write themselves. Someone has to do this maker work. And in Alex's case, he's delegated that to a small team. Now, Alex Hormozi has a creative director or a YouTube strategist or a producer, whatever label you want to call them, and their job description is this. Now, it all comes down to this. Here's a job description for a creative director to work at acquisition.com, and we can see that it ticks off all of these boxes. Your mission is to scale acquisition.com's voice into billions of impressions per year. And so they own the entire content roadmap. They also oversee pre-production planning and run of show for all film days. And so they're there on set with Alex as he records. And so this is how important the role is to them. Start to finish, there's someone's vision for what that final video looks like. It's the same person who came up with the idea, and so they can make sure it gets executed correctly. This creative director operates on a maker schedule, not a manager's schedule. Their job is quite literally to understand Alex's audience, understand what information Alex can uniquely provide, and then understand the current level of knowledge and advice available for that audience by other creators in this space and how to differentiate from them. Now, when it comes down to pre-production, this is the point of contact. This creative director is the person who matters. Now, if you're a busy founder or you don't have time to create a lot of content, you need someone like this. It doesn't have to be a high-paid creative director as Alex has, but even a virtual assistant at just $5 to $10 per hour to be your point of contact and to write out that list of questions and to do all of that initial research to allow you to sit down in a 30-minute block of time in between meetings. And I promise it will make a dramatic change to how you create content and how you feel about creating content. And that's the entire point. When you sit down to film, you don't need to come up with any ideas. You don't need to be in that low dopamine state of mind where you start to believe your own thoughts are interesting enough to say. You can just answer the questions in front of you, and you never have to sit down and face a blank Google Doc because you already have someone who's done that maker work on the other side of the wall. And so after this, maybe there's an army of clippers who takes that footage and turns it into 300 pieces of short form content. Maybe there's also a team of very skilled editors to turn it into long form content. But all of that aside, other channels have that too. What they don't have is the amount of input coming in, especially from a founder so busy. Now, all of this works not because of that second half of the puzzle, the post-production team, but it works because of the pre-production. The creative director and everyone doing the planning to allow Alex to sit down for those 30 minutes every week. Now, if you can't afford a team, the answer isn't to do it all anyway and just try harder. It's to carve out one full maker day per week. And so you can do a hybrid approach. The rest of your week is spent on admin tasks and packed back to back with meetings. But on maybe every Thursday, you clear your calendar, you make sure nobody can book, and that is your content day. Maybe you don't have clear KPIs for how much content you want to put out, but you have just one goal, and that's to make some really great content. And I promise if you do this, if you just adopt that one day per week, then it will change everything when it comes to your content.